Does your life change when your lifelong dream comes true? For me and my brother, we are going to find out how a childhood dream being fulfilled would not be everything we expected it to be, yet also be so much more than we could have possibly imagined. My brother and I made a lifelong dream come true by coming to Japan and hiking up Mount Fuji, and now it was time for us to explore the rest of the country together. After descending Mount Fuji, we had the next 2 weeks to explore the entire country. We were going to be in Japan for 24 days, and for the next 2 weeks, we were entirely on our own with only the bare bones of a plan that we finished just a few days before flying out to Japan. All we knew was that in 14 days, we were going to meet our boys in Tokyo. But until then, we were going to do everything our childhood selves could only dream about. Despite the descent of Mount Fuji only being 4 hours, it proved to be way harder than the climb up, because you're essentially speed running down a steep dirt road for the entirety of 4 hours, praying that your knees and ankles can handle the collision of hundreds of rocks and hoping that you don't fall off the literal mountain. The cool air at the top of Mount Fuji was slowly getting warmer and warmer as we made our way down, but we were excited to finally start our solo trip across Japan, starting with the small town of
私は何ですか?
We were finally ready to rest after the long hike when we got down, but there was one tiny problem. It was only 9 a.m. when we got back to the base of Mount Fuji, and our hotel reservation wasn't until 3 p.m. It looked as if we had a little bit more time to explore the small town, and so what better way is there to start our trip across Japan than just getting lost and exploring a small countryside town of Japan. Kawaguchiko is a small charming town that hosts beautiful sights of not only Mount Fuji, but also of the vast lake Kawaguchi. Despite how exhausted me and my brother were from climbing Mount Fuji, we were not going to waste a single second of our time in Japan, and we spent the better half of our first day just biking around and exploring all the sights to this small town. This was a quiet, peaceful, serene, and truly just amazing way to start our trip. We were going to be staying in this town for just one day, and it was the perfect place for us to unwind after a long flight and hike up Mount Fuji. Everything about our experience here just felt right. The next stop for us was Hakone, or so we thought. Our trip would take a little detour, and soon we were going to find ourselves going back to a city we didn't expect to be going to just yet. After heading to the bus stop the next morning to get to Hakone, we had purchased tickets to the city, but when we got on the bus, the driver gave us a strange look but let us on anyways. As we got settled into our seats and I closed my eyes, I felt something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I was just too exhausted from the hike the day before, and I quickly went to sleep. When I woke up from my nap, I checked Google Maps to see how far from Hakone we were. And what should have been a 3-hour ride was suddenly turned into 5 hours. How is that possible? I thought to myself. Had the bus taken a detour? Was the map just wrong? Or worst case scenario, were we going the wrong direction? That's when I translated the next direction for the bus to stop, and it turns out that we were actually headed to Tokyo instead. The tourist guide that we bought tickets off of had sent us on the wrong bus, and we were going the complete opposite way. Bro, my heart actually sank because there was no way to get off of this bus until we got to Tokyo. I started considering our options and thought we might as well spend the day in Tokyo, right? If we were going to be there in a few hours, we might as well as give up on going to Hakone for the day. But my brother, who has always been solid, stuck to the plan and was determined to push through when I was ready to fold, and he was going to make sure we were going to Hakone. We had booked a stay at a traditional onsen in Hakone, and he was going to see that hot spring if it was the last thing he did that day. We had no choice but to go back to Tokyo and figure our way out from there to get to Hakone. The problem was that it was already the afternoon, and the place that the bus was stopping for us only had one bus left in the day that was heading to Hakone, and if we missed that bus, we had no choice but to either stay in Tokyo or pay for a $200 taxi ride to get there. Luckily, we made that bus, and soon we started a 5-hour journey back the way we came from for what should have only been a 3-hour trip. The part of this trip back to Hakone that broke me was when the bus literally drove past the original bus stop that me and my brother came from. This is when we encountered another problem. The bus that would be dropping us off would be going to a bus stop in the middle of nowhere. It was already 9 p.m., pitch dark outside, and the bus was dropping us off in some rural small part of Hakone. It was not even close to our inn, and so I thought that my only choice was to bribe the bus driver to get us there. I literally put into Google Translate, "Please take us to our inn, I'll give you money," but he hit me with the classic Well, he didn't take my bribe, and so my brother and I were left in the literal pitch darkness with nothing but a burning determination to get to our onsen. We were completely exhausted from the hike up Mt Fuji, and having spent the entire day on a bus trying to get to Hakone, we had no choice but to persevere. But this is when we came into another problem. The rural part of Hakone that we were dropped off at had no connection to any of the surrounding taxi companies. And so with no buses coming and no taxis available to pick us up, I was starting to panic a little bit because our only choice would be to walk for an hour in the darkness to get to the onsen. With no choice left but to walk, me and my brother started walking through the darkness of the Hakone countryside. And as if we were literal flies, we were attracted to a light we saw in the darkness. Luckily, there was another inn nearby, and so we went in with the hopes that they could help us out. I can't express how grateful we were with their help. They were able to call a taxi driver who definitely looked like he'd rather be anywhere else but here with us. But he got us to our inn, and after spending a whole day literally on the bus, we made it happen. We arrived in Hakone. It was only 3 days into our trip, and yet me and my brother had already climbed up Mt Fuji, biked through the Japanese countryside, and already got lost trying to make our way to Hakone. This was definitely not the adventure that I was expecting at first, but nonetheless was making for some beautiful memories.
私は糸が熱い胸聞こえるでしょう素肌にキラキラサンゴ礁二人きりで流されてもいいのあなたが好き私の恋は南の風に乗って走るわ青い風引いて走れあの島涙がこぼれるの優しい目をして見ないでうつむき影のレトロス花びら触れて年の渚は恋のモスグリーン二人の方が近づいてゆくのよあなたが好き私の恋は南の風に乗って走るわ青い風引いて走れあの島
This was definitely one of the quieter spots that me and my brother visited during our trip, but it was well worth the journey to get here. After spending 2 days in Hakone, it was time for my brother and I to head to Kyoto. And going to Kyoto would prove to be a challenge in its own right. By heading further down south during the September summer season, my brother and I were going to be exposed to the Japanese humidity that we heard of, but did not expect it to be as bad as it was.